There is a thin black sheet wrapped around your sushi. Most people barely notice it. They think of it as packaging, a wrapper, something that holds the rice and fish together. Some people even peel it off and throw it away. But that thin black sheet is one of the most important ingredients in Japanese cuisine. It is called nori, and it is not packaging at all. It is concentrated umami, a carefully farmed sea vegetable, and a product with a history far stranger than most people imagine. Nori almost disappeared completely in the 20th century, and it was saved by a scientist who never even visited Japan when she made her discovery. We will get to that. But first, let us decode what nori actually is. Nori is made from a type of edible seaweed. More specifically, it comes from red algae, even though the final product looks dark, green, or black. The seaweed is harvested, chopped, washed, and spread into thin sheets. Then it is dried. If that process sounds familiar, it should. It is almost exactly like making paper. The wet seaweed is laid out in a thin, even layer, pressed and dried into a flat sheet. That is why nori has that distinctive paper-like structure. It is essentially a sheet of pressed, dried sea vegetable. Quick pause before we go deeper. If you're enjoying this so far, hit that thumbs up button below the video. It really helps me reach more food lovers like you. And if you're new here, subscribe to Food Decoded for weekly deep dives into what you're really eating. The history of nori is more dramatic than it sounds. For centuries, nori was harvested from the wild. Fishermen collected it where it naturally grew on rocks and structures in coastal waters. But there was a huge problem. Nobody understood how nori actually reproduced. Its life cycle was a complete mystery. Farmers could not reliably grow it. Some years there was plenty. Other years there was almost none. It was so unpredictable that it was sometimes called gambler's grass. Then came a disaster. In the 1940s, a series of typhoons and environmental changes devastated nori production in Japan. The entire industry was on the edge of collapse. And here is where the story takes an unexpected turn. A British scientist named Kathleen Drew Baker was studying a similar type of algae in Wales. She discovered the hidden stage of its life cycle. It turned out that nori has a microscopic phase that lives inside shells. This phase was the missing piece nobody had understood. Her research, published in 1949, revealed how to cultivate nori reliably for the first time. Japanese scientists applied her findings, and the nori industry was saved. Today, she is honored in Japan as the Mother of the Sea. There is even a memorial dedicated to her. A British scientist who studied seaweed in Wales helped rescue one of Japan's most iconic ingredients. That is the kind of story most people never hear when they look at a piece of sushi. So now we know what nori is and where it came from. But why does it matter so much? The answer is umami. If what you just learned surprised you, do me a small favor. Drop a like on this video. It helps other curious eaters find this exact breakdown when they need it most. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect moment. Because the part most people get completely wrong is coming up next. Nori is naturally rich in compounds that create umami. It contains glutamate, the same compound that gives dashi, miso, and aged cheese their savory depth. It also contains other savory compounds that work together with glutamate. When several umami compounds combine, the effect multiplies. This is the same principle behind dashi. Kombu and bonito flakes each bring different umami compounds, and together they create something far stronger than either alone. Nori works in a similar way. It is not just salty or sea-flavored, it is a concentrated source of savory depth. That is why nori adds so much to the foods it touches. A bowl of plain rice with a strip of nori suddenly has more dimension. A simple snack of nori and soy sauce feels surprisingly satisfying. And in sushi, nori is not just holding things together. It is adding a savory layer that ties the rice and fish into one experience. This is the part most people miss. Nori is not neutral. It is an active flavor ingredient. But here is what most people get wrong. They treat all nori as the same. And the difference between good nori and cheap nori is enormous. High-quality nori is thin, glossy, and deeply colored. It has a clean, almost sweet ocean aroma. It crisps beautifully and almost melts in the mouth. Cheap nori is often duller, tougher, and more bitter. It can be chewy in a bad way or taste flat and overly fishy. The grading of nori in Japan is taken very seriously. The best sheets come from specific harvests, often the first harvest of the season. These premium grades can be remarkably expensive. The same way there is a huge gap between cheap and premium olive oil, there is a huge gap between cheap and premium nori. Most people have only ever tasted the lower grades, so they assume nori is just a mild, slightly fishy wrapper. They have never experienced the version that tastes clean, sweet, and intensely savory all at once, and texture matters just as much as flavor. Good nori is crisp and shatters cleanly, but nori is extremely sensitive to moisture. The moment it absorbs humidity, it goes soft and loses its appeal. This is why high-quality sushi is often assembled and served immediately. The nori is at its best for only a short window. Once it sits, it softens and changes. This is the same theme we keep seeing in Japanese cuisine. Timing is part of the ingredient. Tempura must be eaten fresh. Real wasabi loses aroma within minutes. Dashi is delicate and fleeting. And great nori is crisp for only a short time. These ingredients reward attention and punish delay. This also explains a detail many people notice but never understand. In some sushi, especially hand rolls, the nori is meant to be eaten the instant it is made. The crisp nori against the soft, warm rice is the entire point. Wait too long, and that contrast disappears. Now here is the deeper idea. Nori is a perfect example of how Japanese cuisine extracts richness from the sea. Japan is an island nation. The ocean is not just a border, it is a pantry. Seaweed, fish, bonito, kombu, and countless sea ingredients form the backbone of Japanese flavor. And nori is one of the most refined expressions of that relationship. It takes something that grows in cold coastal water and turns it into a concentrated, shelf-stable sheet of pure, savory flavor. That is not packaging. That is engineering of flavor through farming, drying, and tradition. So the real question is not, why is there seaweed on my sushi? The real question is how a sheet of dried sea vegetable became one of the most important flavor tools in an entire cuisine. And the answer comes back to umami. Nori delivers savory depth in a form that is light, crisp, and incredibly versatile. It wraps sushi. It tops rice bowls. It flavors snacks. It garnishes ramen and noodles. It turns simple foods into something more complete. And it does all of this from a thin black sheet most people ignore. So if you only take one thing from this video, let it be this. Nori is not a wrapper. It is a farmed sea vegetable, pressed like paper, packed with umami, and refined over centuries into one of the quiet foundations of Japanese cooking. And once you understand that, you will never look at the black sheet on your sushi the same way again. Have you ever tasted really good, fresh nori? Tell me in the comments whether you noticed how different premium nori can be, or whether you used to think of it as just a wrapper. If this video helped you understand nori a little better, please leave a like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, Join Food Decoded for more culinary clarity every week. If you want to understand the deeper umami foundation that Nori is part of, watch Why Japanese Food Tastes So Different on the left. It explains the invisible base behind almost all Japanese cooking. Or if you want another sea-to-table ingredient most people misunderstand, check out Wasabi Decoded on the right. I'm Food Decoded. See you in the next one.